Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're here to kick off our Robin Hobb read along for the year. I've been doing like about a series every year, and so we're doing the Tawny Man trilogy. And I've got three guests with joining me to discuss. So if y'all want to introduce yourselves, and for some reason YouTube was not letting me at your channels, so they're not like you're all listed below, but it wouldn't let me at you. But yeah, so let's go around to start with Jade, and we can just go clockwise. If you want to introduce yourselves, who you are, where people can find you, what you read, stuff like that.
Okay. So yeah, my name's Jade. My booktube channel is Bedtime Bookworm. I have not been active for a couple of years. I'm trying to get back into reading and making videos again, so we'll see how that goes. But I primarily read fantasy and sci-fi, and this is the furthest I've read into Robin Hobb, but I have read Farseer and Life Ship, and I really like her as much as she hurts me. So I'm excited to talk about this book today, which I just finished, so my wounds are fresh.
Awesome. Lachette.
Hi. I'm Lachette. My YouTube channel is Scarlet Creations, and I have bookish content. I have non-bookish content on there. I refuse to have more than one channel, so do what you will, what you want. This is also the furthest I've made it into the realm of the Elderling series, and interested to see what happens next.
Hello, I am Christea. My channel is Christea's Cozy Corner, which I started just a few months ago, so still a pretty new booktuber. But I read primarily fantasy, a little bit of sci-fi if I can get to it, and Realm of the Elderlings is my favorite series of all time. I haven't finished it yet, but it is my favorite.
I love it. Thank you all for joining. I'm so glad this worked out. I'm going to take a look at comments. Hello, welcome. Hi. How's everybody doing this evening? Hello.
Oh, hey, Daniel. One of our friends.
Oh, good. Welcome. Nice. So, Fool's Errand. So I think what we said was we'll start without live ship trader spoilers, but we will get into them. So maybe we'll do sort of like spoiler-free thoughts, and then we'll get into some other stuff. So hi, Emily. Okay, no worries. We'll see you then. This was interesting. I'm curious to hear how did everybody do with this? Oh, this and Fool's Assassin are your favorite books. That's so interesting. Is this the thought therapy session? Yes.
We were joking in my Discord today that we have post-traumatic Hobb disorder.
I've never recovered.
Break your heart.
Yes. And after I finished this book, I did take a long shower and have a good old cry. So sometimes you just gotta let it all out, right? Therapeutic.
That's true. I think what I said about this is like the first 30% of this book is just sort of like, what has Fitz been up to, and let's get him out of his house.
I said the same thing too. Once we got to the point where we were leaving his house, I was like, okay, this was nice and cozy, and like I liked the ketchup, but I'm ready for the plot to go. And Christea was like, so you're ready for Fitz to get hurt? And I was like, no, that's not what I mean.
That is what is gonna happen.
Yes.
Like I was living for that first 30% because I'm like, he's so just like domestic, doing his normal thing, and like his life is so peaceful. And as soon as the plot gets moving, you know he's gonna suffer again.
Is your child.
But I agree. The first like 30%, I was like, okay, this is cute and cozy, but I'm ready for like the story to go. Definitely.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree.
How I felt.
So should we go talk about our ratings and like overall thoughts?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I can go first. 5 stars. I don't know. I love Hobbs, so I kind of knew. I mean, I knew it would be at least a 4, but I was figured it'd probably be a 5. And yeah, I gave it 5 stars. I'm not super harsh with my ratings. I rate mostly on enjoyment. As much as this hurt my heart, I still enjoyed it in a weird way. Just anything that makes you feel that kind of emotion, that level of emotion, I feel like deserves a lot of stars. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. The first 30%, I agree, were kind of like slow, but I just like relished spending time with these familiar characters at the same time. And then I really enjoyed the plot for the rest of it. Like, things surprised me, things hurt me, as I have said. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I gave it 4.5 stars. I'm not super harsh, but I don't know. I think the slowness in the very beginning before certain people showed up kind of had me hesitating. I also otherwise like enjoyed the pain and the suffering and all of the above too. I also really, really like seeing Fitz in a different role now in this trilogy. It didn't hit me towards the end, but his whole life and how people view him is completely different now. Well, once he was around other people anyway, than in the first trilogy. So that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and actually, to add to that, that book ended in a way that made me like hopeful and excited for the rest of the trilogy because like, of where it ends up. And like I was like, oh, I'm excited about this new like plot and invite like, you know, not to be too spoiler, but like where it ended and like where it's going. I'm like, oh, this is exciting. So I'm excited to read more.
Same. I don't think the next 2 are gonna end as hopeful. So I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
So this is actually a reread for me, even though I actually didn't remember any of the plot points from it. I remember nothing. I just remember really loving it, and it's still a 5 stars this time around, just because I fell in love with this series from Assassin's Apprentice. So there was like no universe where I would give any Fitz book like anything less than 5 stars. And also that you mentioned, like, it's interesting to see Fitz in a new role. And as I was reading it, I was thinking, like, damn, Fitz is, like, actually so cool now. Like, in the first trilogy, he's, like, this little boy, and he's, like, so sad. But in this one, it's like, oh, he's a man now, and he actually, like, he does stuff.
Oh my God, it's really weird. He's in his 30s. Like, we're close in age now. That kind of blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, this was 4.5 stars for me. The beginning was a little slow for me. I kind of was like, okay, when is something gonna happen? I enjoyed it for a while, but it was a little bit so. But then, you know, I got swept up in what was going on, and I don't know. I just think Robin Hobb's writing is so good, and the way that she does characters and world building and everything is just amazing. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. This is not my favorite book from her, but it's still like a not favorite book from Hobb is still great. So, you know, yes. Let's see. Could read a whole book about Fitz taking care of his chickens.
Same. His chickens.
So good,
Who's taking? Oh wait, no. His neighbor is taking care of his chickens now.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's happening to the chickens?
The chickens will be fine. The whole book could have been cozy catch up, and I would have been happy. Okay, great. Hi, welcome. Yeah. It was. It is interesting, right? Because he's so much older. Everything I do in some ways like him better because I feel like he's a little bit more mature and self-aware and aware of the world around him to a certain extent.
Yeah, he definitely feels like he has a lot more agency in this series now than in the first one, where he was just kind of like strung along by everyone around him. Although he's still kind of getting strung along.
He's kind of still getting strung along. Like honestly, they're still like, we're gonna push you where we want you.
Yeah, but he's starting to do things his own way.
I like that, the maturity, but I also feel like there's some things that now that he's an adult, I probably not gonna be able to let slide anymore. Like, no, you're a grown up now, and
I
there
agree.
are
Like,
younger people around you.
every
You need to
time
be thinking
Fitz
more.
has an interaction with a woman, I'm like, Fitz, you're a grown ass man. Have some dignity. Like, stop blushing all the time. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
But it's like he doesn't know how to have a normal relationship with a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
he never
sad.
had the opportunity. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know how much else there is to say without getting into spoilers. Does anyone else have anything else they want to talk about
I
that's
mean,
like
we could
not?
try like catch up with other characters that were in the
Mhm.
previous series.
Mhm.
Like I very, very much enjoyed the Fool showing up.
I love
Even
the
before they
Fool.
went
Oh my God,
back,
me
I
too.
was just like,
Mhm.
yay, they're together again.
Yeah.
But they were still being domestic, and that was very cute.
Fitz and the Fool being husbands is what I live for.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree.
I mean, most people will not disagree. I feel like I love the Fool. I feel like the Fool is my favorite character in this book. Honestly,
Yes.
There's just so much mystery around him too. Like so much to. I love prophecies in books. Like that's one of my buzzwords or one of my tropes that I like. And so trying to piece together the different pieces, and I don't know. I think it's really interesting. So yeah, I love the Fool too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how
think
much I can
it's
say
way more
without spoilers.
interesting. I don't know who else.
I know spoilers are so hard.
It is. I know.
I'm like, because we all know that at this point how the Fool feels towards Fitz, right?
Mhm.
Yes. I think he's
Jade was like
obvious.
surprised.
I was a little oblivious. I was like, "What?" Like I was
Oh.
Fitz. I was like, "He's just kidding."
The Fool is literally like, "I love you," and Fitz is like, "Yeah, bro."
I didn't realize it was romantic until this book.
Oh.
Uh,
Mhm.
I had a feeling.
No.
but
Actually, I
you know,
realized it was romantic in the book before this one. Nah, I'm gonna stop right there.
Wait,
Okay.
in which series?
Can I say?
Yeah.
In Live Ship at the end of Live Ship.
Oh,
Okay. See, I realized way
Partially
before
because
that.
of Christie. She like let me. She pointed something out that I was like, "Oh, that's a thing." But I don't know what I can say, what I can't.
Okay.
So I'm gonna wait
We'll,
a little bit.
we'll circle back to this,
Okay.
but like I will say, like I feel like it's there in the first trilogy.
Yeah.
I mean, like
No,
it's
I'm
very...
sure it is. It just went
Well,
right over
I'm
my
not
head.
sure if it's like a crush or like a young boys thing, and maybe it'll go away, or worship, like hero worship type of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, very clear and concrete here to everyone except for Fitz.
Yeah, I actually reread the entire trilogy like right before this as well, and I just remember like there's that scene in the third book where Fool literally tells him like he loves everything about that, everything that is Fitz, and I'm like, you can't get a more clear confession than that.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments I feel like that are, it's very clear, but yeah, Fitz is kind of oblivious. Well, and also I think afraid of his own feelings. What I find interesting though is the fact that Robin Hobb has like, I mean, I don't think she talks about it anymore, but like years ago was like coming down really hard on fanfic writers who were writing slash fic with the Fool and Fitz.
Why?
Only those types?
Yeah, because she felt like, I don't know, she didn't like it because she was like, if that was supposed to be what happened, I would have written it or something. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think she says this publicly anymore, but like years ago, she apparently.
I just remember like Hobb does not like fan fiction.
She does not.
Yeah. I think she even has it like on her website, like one of the questions or something. It's like,
Yeah, she
what-
doesn't like.
yeah.
She feels like it's disrespectful to the author and what they wanted to write, which is interesting.
I guess I can kind of understand that. But, you know, to each their own. I don't know, since this series is old enough, if it's going to become anything, if Fitz is going to become aware, or if they're going to have any other type of relationship or anything like that.
I mean, there's a lot more books for us to finish. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have avoided spoilers, so I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening. What's going to happen.
No
Yeah,
idea.
I don't know exactly what happens. The only thing I know is like the vibe seems to be that maybe nothing explicit ever happens.
Yeah, especially with your comment about the fan fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just bros.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah.
Who else? Ketrick. What is her name? The Queen Ketrican.
Petrican.
We
I
didn't
love
see her that
I
much.
love her too. We didn't really see much of her though.
I know. I wish we had. I'm sure we will more in the other books, but yeah, we didn't spend much time with her.
But I did like the little bit that we got, because it's like, oh yes, she's the queen. Because in the previous trilogy, we didn't get to see her like just being an everyday queen, whatever that means.
Right.
But that was interesting.
And I love her mountain culture and like the whole idea of like the sacrifice. Like that was some of my favorite from the first series. So like I love her as a queen and like what that means to her and stuff. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And then there is her child who is something.
Yeah.
Dutiful.
I have thoughts.
I forgot about the Farseer naming thing. I was like,
Yeah.
naming that? Hello.
Yeah.
Verity and
Yep.
Regal, whatever.
Yeah. There was some point where Fitz was saying something to Dutiful about like being patient or something, and I was like, he should have made a joke about patience. Like, I wanted him to make a joke about Lady Patience because they're like related. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought it would be funny, but he didn't take
funny.
the opportunity.
Oh well. I feel like we're like 17 minutes in. Let's just talk spoilers
All
at
right.
this point.
I'm down. I'm ready.
Okay.
The only other character I remember from the previous books is someone I can't talk about without spoilers, and I forget her name.
Well, there's like
Bard.
Burrich.
Burrich.
Oh yeah, there's that too. But there's also like Burrich and Molly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I always found that to be such a weird choice.
Yeah.
But I can kind of understand.
Mostly because of the age difference. Like,
although I don't think it's actually that bad. Like because I remember reading the first trilogy and like it feels like it because we meet Burrich when Fitz is a child, and to Fitz,
he's a father figure, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's weird to me is that he's a father figure, and then
but he's not actually that old.
Okay.
You know, like he's
mid-20s, I think, when he met Fitz.
When he met Fitz, yeah.
Damn.
So he's like,
Fitz was seeing him as ancient.
Well, I mean, but
that's what a child does,
like,
right?
That's what a child sees.
That's what made me think that he was so old in the beginning too.
But he wasn't. But he wasn't actually. So he's probably like 10 years older than Molly or something. It's not anything.
Which isn't that crazy, but it's more like the relationship that I think is like weird to me. I mean, I'm used to it by now, living in my head.
Weird.
But like the relationship of like, if I had someone that I treated and raised like a son, I'm not going to go and have kids with his ex-girlfriend. Like, I feel like that's weird.
Yeah,
but I understand. I understand how it happened.
Yeah,
because
but I mean, they were comforting each other.
Yeah.
You know, I could see it happen, and he was helping take care of Nettle. Like, I get it.
And like age-wise, it's like not actually his kid. It's more like a much older brother who was a guardian or something.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know. It's like not.
We can think of it that way.
That's how I choose to think of it.
Yeah.
Uncle. I have uncles who are only 10 years older than me.
A cool uncle.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know about cool, but yes.
Yeah,
it makes me so sad for Fitz though that he can't reveal himself to them without like betraying the most like without completely breaking both their hearts and just making
Right.
them feel the absolute worst.
Yeah.
And it just made me think how like his whole existence as a bastard was something that never should have happened, and then because of his existence, that's what threw everything into turmoil. And now also because of his existence and the fact that he is still alive, it's like the most heartbreaking thing that can happen to the two people he loves the most in the world.
Yeah. But I have to say this. Fitz is a father or a father figure to 3 people now. This is, I'm a little worried.
Oh.
I'm a little worried.
I had to do the math in my head. I was like, how many?
I'm concerned.
What are you concerned about?
Fitz is not the most stable human being. And
Okay.
I mean, Nettle is kind of off to the side. So, but I feel like that's not going to stay the same way. And he doesn't have his shit together. Excuse me. I don't know if they're saying or not. But he doesn't. And now he's supposed to be taking care of Dutiful's, I guess, lessons with the skill and wit. And what skill does he have with either of those? Or like practice?
More than Dutiful has.
Well, and also more than anybody else has.
It's true. Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah.
But it's still
Shade
like
tried, didn't make it.
haphazard. And then I forgot the other guy's name, the one who was living with him and is
Hap.
doing that. Hap, yeah. Like, wow, that's gonna blow up when he finds out, because I'm sure he will, who Fitz is and how he has like 2 other actual children. So
yeah. Fitz is always putting people ahead of himself, even when it's not in their best interest. He has such a big heart. Yeah.
It's true.
I mean, I think now. Now.
Yeah.
We can talk
But I
spoilers,
mean also I feel like But I also feel like now it makes sense because he also, it would upend the lives of his child, with Molly and their other children. I don't know, like, so I understand why
he can't tell anybody his secrets because it'll ruin their lives, and he loves them and doesn't want to ruin their lives. What a lonely existence.
But also Robin Hobb likes to ruin their lives, so I don't know if that secrets are gonna stay that way.
That's why she doesn't like fan fiction. She's like, you can't make their lives better.
Right? No joy.
No. Doesn't deserve happiness.
How dare you?
Oh no. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because, like, where was I gonna go with this? Fitz. Oh, it just flew out of my head. Oh my god!
I hate when that happens.
It'll come back. It'll come back to me. It's fine. It's fine.
Annoying when that happens. I forgot honestly about Fitz and Catcher Kid and that whole Verity riding him.
Oh yeah, this is what I was. Yes, it's weird.
I did not forget. This has been a question
really
in my head, like, ever since I read that. I was like, okay, but biologically, like, what happened? Because not everybody here knows this, but I work in genetics. I'm a scientist, so I'm like thinking, like, okay, but does he look like Fitz? Apparently he does. It's hard because Fitz is also, like, he looks like a farseer, so, like, they're related,
It's sort of like Fitz was the sperm donor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I got from this book. So actually, I was wondering, do you guys think Shade knows? Because the scene, we're talking spoilers, right? Full on spoilers.
Yeah.
The scene when they first meet up in the castle, like when Fitz first gets there, Shade has this whole thing about, I don't know, he was acting really weird, and to me he was hinting that Dutiful looks a lot like Fitz, and was like, you can't lie to me. And I was like, what is he talking about? Like, does he know? This is before I knew that Dutiful looked like Fitz.
Oh,
I think the only way he knows is Fool.
Or maybe he's just like
the Fool knows.
Something.
But does Shade, or does even, I mean, Ketcherkin doesn't know, but I wonder if anybody else suspects because of how how much they look alike. But like I was saying, but they're related through
They are related
other
other
people, so like
ways,
they can
yeah.
explain it away. So I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So
Also-
I definitely could see Jade suspecting.
I
You
think
think
he
he's
suspects.
yeah.
I do.
I
Yeah.
wish I don't think I highlighted the part in my Kindle, but like there was a scene where he was saying some things and I was like, wait. And this was before we had met Dutiful, so I didn't know if he looked like him, but whatever Shay was saying was making me think that he might know. But I don't know.
I remember that
yeah.
scene.
When I first read that scene in Assassin's Quest, I was like, what is this? Like, what is
It's
happening?
such a weird thing.
But I feel like because I read this first like 9 years ago. So I've had time away from it. So now when I think back to it, I was like, okay, I'm used to the idea now. So it's like, it doesn't seem as weird to me, but for sure, it's weird.
The weirdest.
I mean, so dutiful.
That
This
poor kid.
child. Oh, two completely different reactions.
Like, he's definitely like a little bratty, but I'm also
Yeah.
like, the way he was raised, they kind of set him up to be, not that they knew, because it's the wit, and that lady was crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
I totally guessed it right before it was revealed. I was like, oh, I think this is what's happening, because I kept being confused by them.
I guessed a while before.
I totally
well,
it
because
was, like,
they told that whole story about the woman,
that was
and I was
foreshadowing,
like,
and I was like,
clearly this is like what's going on.
Well, I kept being confused because they were saying that Fitz was saying that Dutiful was chasing a woman. And I was like, I didn't see a woman in that dream. What is he talking about? And it wasn't until later that I was like, oh, that's what's going to happen. And in that chapter, they figured it out. And I was like, I felt really smart, but I guess I didn't get as fast as you guys.
I did not pick up on it until they said it. And you know, I'm fine with that. Like, I connected the dots once, you know, it was revealed. So I'm happy enough.
Yeah, I pretty quickly was like, I bet this is what's happening, because they had mentioned the thing about, and I was like, why else would they mention this story if that's not
because
relevant?
Because somebody else was gonna die.
Piece of information.
I thought that was all like foreshadowing for the other major death. So I like didn't connect that.
Yeah, I mean that she was very heavy-handed with that, preparing us for that,
which I appreciate because I needed to be prepared. But I wasn't sure. It still caught me off guard. So I'm going to talk about my Night Eyes experience. Like the whole book, I was like, okay, he's old. He's going to die. They were, you know, foreshadowing, prepping me for his death. And then we get like 90% in and like the battles are over. And I'm like, okay, so not this book, maybe by the end of the trilogy.
Yeah.
And then, and it was such a slow, like, oh, we're going to go on a hunt. And then it's like, he's gone. I was like, what? And I
definitely have to read that 2 or 3 times.
It snuck up on me. Yeah. Because it would seem it's like so peaceful. And what I was saying in my Discord earlier was that on the one hand, I didn't expect it when it actually happened because it wasn't like a sacrifice. There was no battle. And that's what I had expected to happen. But also, I appreciate that he died so peacefully. Like, I didn't want him to be a sacrifice. I don't want him to be in pain. So, like, the way that it ended, I'm actually, like, happy about it. But it still kind of slapped me across the face because it's not what I thought was going to happen.
Same.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it, but I'm happy.
As happy as
I really liked the way that this explored Night Eyes having you know, autonomy over his own body and like really fighting for that, where he was like, stop trying to, well, because it sort of, you know, it makes me think of like people who have sort of like end of life, do not revive type choices. It felt to me like that, where he was like, stop trying to magically make me live longer, just let me like go. You have to do, you know. And I appreciated that there was like that discussion about autonomy and like letting people go. And I don't know, I just
There was
And
some
he-
good
It was done
grief
really well.
stuff in this book.
And he's like,
Yeah.
I
don't
highlighted
I
stop
also
something.
treating me like I'm already dead, right? And that, because that
Yes.
takes away from what he
Yeah.
can enjoy
Yeah,
of his
that
life
too.
right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the whole thing where it happened, it was just such a subtle way to do, and it was just so beautiful the way she wrote it about it was like dandelion fluff being
Yeah.
scattered, and I'm like, I remember when I first read this scene, back when I first read the series, it was like the hardest I have ever cried reading anything ever. And then just like for years after that, anytime I wanted to feel sad or to like tear up, I just had to think about that one scene, that one sentence where he goes, but Night Eyes was gone. And I'm like,
Yeah. There were a couple things about
They're so mean.
Yeah. There were a couple things about grief in this book that really got to me. So I highlighted one quote. It was, if a man does not die of a wound, then it heals in some fashion. And so it is with loss. From the sharp pain of immediate bereavement, both the prince and I passed into the gray days of numb bewilderment and waiting. So grief has always seemed to me a time of waiting, not for the hurt to pass, but to become accustomed to it. And that really rung true with some of the grief that my grandmother passed a couple of years ago. And just like, it's never going to go away. It's just, you kind of have to like get used to it. And then the other thing is not a direct quote, but just the number of times, it only happened like 2 or 3 times, but the times that Fitz had to tell people that his wolf was dead was emotional to read. Like, it just makes you relive it again. Like, each time you have to tell somebody what happened, you have to relive it. And I guess I'm going to be personal here. Sorry, I hope nobody is hurt by this, but I had an ectopic pregnancy, a miscarriage basically. And like every time I had to tell somebody about it, it was like reliving those emotions all over again. And I felt that towards the end of this book when he had to tell multiple people what happened to Night Eyes. It was just him having to like bring all of that up again. So I don't know, this book definitely had some grief stuff in it that was hard to read, but also like, I don't know, it felt like Robin Hobb understood it in some ways.
Yeah. I thought it was well handled. This I thought was interesting. I think Night Eyes was still a sacrifice, though, because he spent his last few weeks or months helping Fitz and helping the 6 duchies. Hobb kept mentioning how Night Eyes would say, I just would like to be with Fitz in our cabin. So it's like this wasn't...
That was one of the foreshadowings that I like figured this was definitely going to happen before the end of the book, when he promised Night Eyes, like, after we're done with this, like, we're going to go back home, and Night Eyes was like, I just want to be in the cabin with the fire. And once he said that, I was like, it's not happening, is it?
Yeah.
As soon as someone talks about what they're going to do after something is over, that's a death flag.
Yeah, death flag.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was interesting too in that moment where he goes off hunting and Fitz is like, oh, I'm going to sleep a little longer. He's like, it's okay. Come when you're ready. And then it's like that I thought was interesting too, because that ends up being when he dies. And that like, you know, he's like, it's okay. Like, come when you're ready to join me.
So sad.
Yeah.
So after the chapter that Night Eyes died,
so anyway,
we can go back to it, but I was just going to say that the next chapter had some really funny moments that helped me like lighten my mood after being so sad. So we can talk about that in a little bit. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to say about Night Eyes. I love Night Eyes. It was very hard for me. I have 3 dogs. I'm an animal person, and like animal magic like this is like one of my favorites. I love animal companions. Every time one dies, I always cry. Like I knew it was coming, but it was still really hard, like really hard.
I mean, the chickens are still in their lives, happy and happy.
I know. Oh, what is Hap gonna do when he finds out? That's so sad.
I think we were talking about Dutiful before.
Yeah. So some of the funny things have to do with Dutiful that I was going to talk about. So in the chapter after Night Eyes died, Fitz and Dutiful are like talking about stuff, and Dutiful thinks he figured out who Fitz was. He says that I can't even say it with a straight face, but that Fitz was the child of Shade and Lady Time. Lady died, and I really needed that moment after his death. Yeah, it was so funny. I laughed so hard, and and he was like, "You're obviously a farseer, but not that nose. You didn't get that nose from a farseer." And his nose is broken from Regal, so he did.
That is from farseer. Thank you, Regal.
Yeah. I laughed so hard, and I really needed that after that Night Ice chapter. It was like the chapter right after it.
Yeah.
When I read that, I was thinking, like, this is almost as bad as when Fitz thought that Shade was Shrewd's son. In the first book, I was like, where do these kids get this connection?
From the mouth of babes.
Yeah. But it's like, that just made me, like, Dutiful is Fitz's son.
Yeah.
And, like, it's funny because how I reacted, I was like, oh my god, this child, right? Is like, I just find it funny because how Fitz thinks of Dutiful is like how Fitz was like when he was a kid and how Burrick thought of him. And it just, I love seeing like the parallels between those two. How Fitz now, he thinks back and he's like, you know, I hated Burrick when he was raising me and like some of the things that he would say and do. And now he understands him now that he's older and has to deal with the same situation.
Yeah.
Like father, like son. I just don't know if Dutiful's ever going to find out. I mean, I feel like he won't, but maybe he will. But these are one of those.
But I don't know. It's weird too.
I hate these kinds of secrets in books. Like by the end of it all, I want the person to know, you know, like I want it to be revealed, and I just
or
don't
at
know
least know,
happen.
even if he doesn't know that Fitz is his biological dad, at least know who that Fitz is, like his uncle or something. Uncle. I don't know. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, the whole biological dad thing is gonna be really hard to explain, especially to Kevin.
Yeah, that part's weird.
That part, I hope. I don't remember if it does get revealed, but I hope it doesn't.
Yeah,
because then it'll call like Dutiful's right to the throne into question.
Yeah, which is why I was confused at one point. The Fool says something like, because of Fitz, there's a rightful heir to the throne. I was like, but he's not really the rightful heir because like he's a bastard. But I don't know. That's how I see it.
He's the only one left.
Well, but also like part of why they were so cautious about Fitz is because like he potentially could have tried to argue for a right to the throne. That was so. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
It all depends who has like their support.
Yeah. I think this is true. I loved when that scene when Night Eyes said, "I always went ahead of you to show you the way." Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they'll meet in doggy heaven.
I think I only highlighted quotes from Night Eyes.
I did highlight a lot of quotes. A lot of them are just like full quotes. Oh, like the scene where Fool tells, okay, so Fitz is asking the Fool, like, what's your real name? Like, you're not the Fool anymore. Like, what do I call you? And he's like, you can call me what my mother called me, beloved. I love that scene. It was so funny.
Oh, I love it. And then when he's like, that, and then Fitz is like, I'm not going to call you that. And then Fool's like, I'll call you beloved. And when I do, you can call me Fool. And I'm like, oh my God.
You know.
Oh, so good.
Anytime, like,
Fitz is still
oblivious.
Anytime Fool talks about loving Fitz, but then, like, in the next sentence, he'll talk about, you know, that's what makes him the Fool. It makes me so sad. I'm so devastated for the Fool that Fitz still just never get it.
Yeah. I mean, but I think, I don't know. He's afraid of what that would mean, probably. But he's jealous too, which is interesting. But he like fights with himself over. So it's just it's interesting.
Figure your shit out, Fitz.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting how they were traveling through the like portal things and ended up on that magic beach that we know from the Live Ship Trader series.
Christea, did you ever figure out what that was? Yeah. I think, Christea, did you say, never mind. I thought that you were saying you couldn't, that the island was important, but you couldn't remember anything about the island, or am I remembering somebody else?
Yeah. I said, I was like, the creature that shows up and like the island and like the treasures and stuff.
It's super important. Yeah. Okay, so this was the whole thing.
I don't remember anything from Live Ship about it.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's
no,
important.
It's
and this
super
was actually a
important.
reason why I was glad that I had read Live Ship Traders like right before, so I could make some of these connections, because they would have gone over my head if I had taken too long in between.
Yeah. Well, because that's the place where they would go to sort of
Island of the Others.
Yeah, where they would get kind of prophecies, sort of like
and they would get wizardwood charms.
Yes.
And that's also the island where I think where the white serpent, the She Who Remembers, was trapped, and
yes.
What's his face had to free her. That's the same island.
Yeah. So they would take. That's why he was like, "Why? Where? How did you get here? Why didn't you? You didn't come down the path, because there's a path they're supposed to come down. They go to the beach. They collect 5 items. They take them to the other, and they're told like the prophecy of what it means about them, and then they leave the items there, and you never take them away from the beach, because like."
But Dutiful took that piece, but didn't it get lost in the ocean whenever they went?
I think they brought it back.
So. Did they bring it back? Okay.
I think they got it back, but then what's interesting, right, is that Fitz got the feathers, has the feathers, which I think are going to go on the crown.
Yeah, like they go on the crown, but what is that? Like, what is that crown for?
I mean, they kept saying, "Oh, this doesn't look right with these colors," but I'm pretty sure it's like the feathers are going to go with the crown. It's like a magic thing, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and there was that whole like vision of the other old white prophet that was wearing the crown that we think might be related to the Fool or whatever. There's something about this crown, and he found the feathers on that island. But yeah, that island is the Island of the Others. And I bet whatever thing that Dutiful found, because he was like, this is really light, like it's lighter than it looks. I think that's wizardwood, but like what I thought he lost it. So now I'm curious if he still has it or not.
Yeah,
I like that scene, how she wrote it with them coming in differently. So you were a little confused and not sure about where they are at first. And then, obviously, if you read enough, I have, thankfully. I was like, oh, this is that island where dude was being an asshole. But
that one.
Yeah.
I liked how she wrote that, so you were a little confused at first, and you see it from a different perspective, not someone planning to go there, and kind of knowing maybe a little bit of the mystery of the island, if not like exactly why things are the way they are.
I very vaguely remember something like this, because I read it so long ago. It feels like a skill dream.
I will say I was very concerned when they were going through all of the portals that Dutiful, like, I mean, he was just like, I don't want to say an idiot. That's obviously not the right word, but like he was very out of it. And like Fitz wasn't sure he was going to be able to hold him together and bring him back together. And I was like, oh my God, is this how he dies? Like, is he just going to be like trapped, mindless and trapped in his body? Yeah. So I'm glad that worked out. But what do you guys think is the thing that fixed Dutiful? Do you know what I'm talking about?
The woman, like the voice.
There was some like big presence that like brought all the pieces back together and put them back in their body.
Was the white dragon actually? But I forgot that she's not there anymore.
Are we talking about Tintaglia?
My guess is that it was a dragon, but I don't know. I don't know.
My guess was that it was one of the elderlings.
One of the elderlings?
Or elders.
Aren't we at the point where we kind of...
But there's no elderlings alive. So is it like...
Well, so this is my theory.
Okay.
I'm like, I mean,
I'm good with your theories because you figured out the whole snake evolution thing way before I did. So...
okay. So my theory is, what if like the elderlings still exist? They're just like in another realm, because she was concerned about them traveling in the skilling, their spirits traveling through too far to their realm. So I think maybe the elderlings like live in another...
Are you saying there's parallel universes in this universe?
Because that's what I think.
That's another one of my buzzwords.
That's what I think.
Of the elderlings.
That's my theory. My theory is that the elderlings like left this realm and are in another one, but they're still like skilling, and that maybe people who can skill have some elderling blood, and that's why they can do it. Whereas they were able to like move their spirits back and forth through that. Anyway, that's my theory. I think it's an elderling.
So for someone who didn't read the last book in the Live Ship Traders, what is your theory about the snake evolution thing? Because by the end of book 2, I was like, well, obviously they become dragons, and then those are like baby elderlings or something like that. But I didn't read the last book because I got tired of that.
Basically, Bethany figured this out before I did because we were reading that series together, at least part of it.
Mhm.
But I didn't realize that the sea serpents were going to turn into dragons, and that the wizard, like how the wizard wood was. So the sea serpents cocoon themselves into something that turns into wizard wood. Well, it's not supposed to. It's supposed to turn into a dragon. So they cocoon and turn into dragons. It's like this whole life cycle thing. And she figured that out, and I was like, "That's genius!" And I didn't realize that that's what was happening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So dragons and elderlings are not
the same.
Not the same.
I definitely thought the elderlings were dragons for a long time. It wasn't until somewhere in Live Ship that I figured out they were not the same thing.
No.
We haven't figured out what the elder. Because I'm like, I think
We don't know.
Because
we don't know
I've
yet.
read like other books. I've read further, but it's like very blurry in my head. So I'm like, I can't speculate on anything because I don't know if it's like actually from what I remember.
Okay, so what I think elderlings are, since I haven't read further.
Looks like we find out more about dragons and elderlings in the raid.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't think we'll get much more about the elderling.
Well, I just think that the elderlings are basically what was happening to some of those characters at the end of Live Ship. I'm still trying to be a little bit vague, where they take on some of the dragon characteristics and can communicate. And it's also making me wonder about the wit and how is that related to how dragons and humans / possible elderlings like communicate too. Like, is that related?
That's interesting.
I mean, dragons are kind of an animal, right?
Like this, the overarching plot of the whole.
I mean, that's all in my head.
This is why you got to read all the books.
Fool's destined, and the fool and his whole like destiny thing with Fitz and all of that. I love like the little pieces we keep getting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope you forget everything that we've said, Patricia, before you read. Because we're going full spoilers here.
Yeah. Well, and the fool's background is so interesting because what did he call himself? A sprite or something in this book?
I know he talked about being a white.
Oh, a white. That was
white.
it.
Oh,
yeah,
a white. Like a sprite.
So I highlighted.
I knew it was. I was close. It was something like that. White. Yeah. But yeah, that like his whole history is so interesting too because he also has this unusual life cycle.
Yeah.
Where he
where he changes color. I didn't catch that until this book.
Oh.
That he was getting darker. So I was like, why? So I highlighted a quick thing about his past. He said, I was born far, far to the south of ordinary folk. Skip some of that. White, in some distant past, a white with a capital W had mingled his blood with my family lines and was born to take up the task of that ancient folk. And then they were also talking about the Red Raiders, and the guy who was leading them also had someone who thought they were the prophet, and how they were like, so that was really interesting too.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she appeared first, and everyone thought that she is the white prophet of this cycle.
Yeah. But he says
so now they're
kind of.
But that's like one of my favorite tropes too, where you have two sides and they have the same goal, but her goal is just going about it in a different way because he's saying that she seeks to destroy everything first before it can be recreated. And I'm like, I love that trope.
Yeah. And then also there was a part towards the end when we find out, or like when Fitz has to leave the fool, and the fool is like, you have to keep Dutiful alive because if you don't, like, Nettle's gonna die. Like, something about the Farseer line is always like being attacked or trying to be taken down, and like they're trying to protect him. So like that was really interesting.
That's why they need.
Well, and that's why I think it's like, do they have elderling blood, and that's why they can skill. Like that's why, and maybe then that's why they need to protect that line because it's the last line that has that. I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know.
That's true. And I'm also thinking or wondering, like, maybe also they need people to have both the skill and the wit, and that's where Fitz comes in as sort of a pivot point or linchpin or whatever you want to call it. Like, because now probably both of his biological kids, I mean, they're not saying it exactly with Nettle,
right?
But
yeah,
I mean,
probably both.
Did y'all read the what is it, the something Princess and the Piebald Prince or whatever?
No, but I got spoiled in this book. I was like, holy spoilers, man. It's fine. It's fine.
Why
I mean,
that's familiar, but I haven't read it.
But I haven't, I haven't read it either.
I really recommend it because we read it through I read it last year during the read along. It's really worth reading because it gives the whole background to why people don't like the wit and why it's like so looked down on, and it's pretty fascinating. And then I wasn't expecting
the Piebald Prince.
Yeah. Also,
it's pretty short, right? It's like a short story,
it's a novella.
Yeah.
Novella. But it's not very long, and it's really good and interesting.
Yeah. I definitely want to read it now.
And it's also like explicitly queer, which I wasn't expecting.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, so wait, maybe I can get my hopes up about the
Well, it was written a lot later. Like she wrote it
later. Okay.
She wrote it later, so I don't know. But
she was influenced by the fan fiction.
Yeah, yes, even if you know what happens, the novella is definitely worth the read. I agree.
Yeah.
But it does give a lot more insight into like the history of people being afraid of those with the wit and hating it and stuff, and that it wasn't always that way. So
interesting.
That I think is interesting.
The wit is like one of my favorite magic. I was about to say magic systems. It's not really a system, but like I just think animal companion kind of magic is so cool. Definitely want to read more about it.
Hobb just approaches it and talks about like all the ethics of it as well. It's not like just simply communicating and bonding with an animal. It's like you can't bond with them when they're too young because that's kind of like taking away their
agency. Yeah.
And like their autonomy.
Yeah.
Before they can so it's almost kind of like
consent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That they need to be really enough to understand it. Well, and to be able to keep their own sense of personhood, that's important too. That you're not like so intertwined that.
Yeah, the time, like the flashback or recap of when Fitz spent that year or that winter with the old blood. I'm like, okay, why didn't we get a book about this lady?
I want to read about it as a novella.
Seriously,
it's surprising. Hobb is she was so ahead of her time, and yet. She will not give us the Fitz and the Fool. Sorry, they're all I can talk about. Like when me and Jade, we were sharing our thoughts, like all her updates were like plot related and like speculation and, like, all this,
about
insightful stuff. And all mine was just like, Fitz and Fool interaction.
I do really
or Night Eyes tears.
Yeah.
Yes, Night Eyes.
Yes. I do really like them.
All the emotions.
I also just think the Fool is so interesting because in terms of being ahead of her time, like the Fool is also this like gender fluid character, which
let's talk about that in live ship a little bit.
Yeah.
So again, I didn't read the last one.
But
you confirmed that what's her name is the Fool?
Yes.
I didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
So towards the end of. So Lachette hasn't read Live Ship or the Ship of Destiny, but she said that she is okay with spoilers and has looked up stuff, just in case anyone's wondering why we're just talking about this. But what I was referring to earlier, at the end of Live Ship, whenever, full Live Ship, Ship of Destiny spoilers, but when Amber is fixing Paragon, she puts Fizz's face on Paragon. That's how I knew.
Oh, okay.
She even gives him his broken nose.
Yeah.
And she's like,
and
there's nothing wrong with
his warrior ponytail. I texted Christea and I was like, wait, they said he had a ponytail. Is this Fitz? Amber is in love with Fitz? And she was like, yeah.
So now I need to come across.
Okay, so Jade, did you not guess that Amber was the Fool before that?
I thought she was related to the fool. I didn't think she was the fool.
Okay,
because I thought she was a woman. So like I knew that there was some gender fluidity, but I did not get to the point of like they are the same person until that happened. And then I was like, wait, she put her lover's face on Paragon and that's Fitz? Like what? I was so confused. But that's when it all came together for me.
Yeah. So I kind of guessed before, but like the thing is too is it's because there's that scene near the end of the last Farseer trilogy book where he has a vision of the fool appearing as this woman who looks like Amber, like saying something in a crowd or whatever. And so I was like, right, like it's foreshadowing, like so
and then I didn't catch that went over. Well, I thought it was an ancestor. In my whole time I'm thinking they're just like related, they're both like white prophets or something like that, you know. So I
mean that vision is from a different time.
Well, because in that vision she's wearing the crown with the feathers. What is this crown?
It all comes back to the crown.
I missed that.
Well, I only realized it because they talk about it again in this book. They mentioned the flashback to that scene, and I was like,
Well,
and they find the crown. They find Amber gets the crown at the end of Ship of Destiny, which I had just read. So I was like, oh, these are related.
And then he got the feathers, which like were supposed to have been lost, but aren't. So maybe it's also a vision of the future and
that's
where things are supposed to go.
The Wheel of Time, man, guys.
The Wheel of Time. Yeah. Every time they talked about time being like a wheel that turns, I'm like the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Which also, we don't really know.
In the vision, the woman that he saw was still like white colored. So I don't know about that because like at this point, Fool is already like tawny. I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought she wasn't though. I thought she was. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't read it in a while.
Yeah,
I just read it, so I remember.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So maybe it's I don't know, but maybe it's the past. But I just think that's so interesting. But and having there's a whole conversation too at the end of that trilogy where like someone's asking the fool about genitals and they're sort of like, why does it matter? And also, why are you asking me?
He's
so
like,
I just think like the way
why
that
are you
she
so
was
concerned about plumbing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that the
I mean, there were definitely hints there, and I knew there was some gender fluidity, but just like in my head, Amber was a woman, even though if you go back and look at it, like Amber's described as not being super feminine, but like I just didn't really think much about it. But it wasn't until that moment where she puts Fitz's face on Paragon that I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Speaking of the fool,
yes.
Another thing that I love and just like absolutely breaks my heart is how like the fool Fitz is his catalyst that he has to keep using and putting him in these situations that put his life in danger or miserable. And the way that he talks to Fitz about it makes him like, it's like he wants to be forgiven for having to do that, but then Fitz keeps like withholding that. He kind of disregards every time Fool says something like that. So it makes me so sad for him.
Poor Fool.
I don't know if he's fully aware that that's what he wants.
He's not. He's oblivious.
He's so oblivious.
No. Yeah. Well, but also what else is new? He's always been oblivious to stuff. Like it takes him forever to cue into anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, also speaking of the fool in this specific book, like I was mentioning earlier, also with Fitz, I like, you know, the change in his circumstances and how somehow no one recognizes him. I guess, you know, when you get a tan or whatever. But
grow a beard,
put on some glasses.
Him being a nobleman now, and like all the girls wanted to hang off of his arm and all that stuff. I was just like, wow, this is different. And now Fitz is his servant. And
he had a glow
He
up.
was a farseer. He was a farseer, literally a glow. But it's just interesting seeing them kind of switched but also not. Like they're both
Yeah, I'm
older,
really surprised
but
more
now
people don't
technically-
recognize the Fool because I feel like he looks so unique, but that's just in my head, maybe.
Well, but he looks different. He hasn't, and like he says, he
changed
hasn't
colors.
aged either.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he looks
Not what people are expecting.
and I think that's the thing is that people don't really look at the person behind the mask is like kind of the idea, which I think is kind of true.
Yeah,
You know?
Definitely.
But yeah.
Oh yeah, I
that's
like
true.
Yeah,
this
Fitz's
this
face
new
was-
persona and how it's like exhausting.
They're so bad at it though.
It's true. Fitz is really bad at pretending to be a servant.
Oh my god, every time he
Stuffs
says something,
the
and
shirts
he's like,
into the bag.
he's like, wait, a servant wouldn't do
Like
that. Why is
never
everyone
again.
looking at me
Don't
weird?
touch my clothes ever again.
Never.
No, but they're both bad at playing their roles, and I love how like whenever they do get a quiet moment just to themselves, they acknowledge like, yeah, this doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
I like
So-
that. And the what is her name?
Laurel?
Hunter, the huntress.
Oh.
Uh,
Laurel.
There we go.
Yeah,
And
I
they're
was
picking
thinking
it
about
up
it
but
too.
not understanding. Like,
Yeah,
why
she
are
knew
they
something was. She was
not
like, they're
acting?
obviously. Yeah, she knew.
Yeah.
I was so suspicious of Laurel for a really long time. Well, and then she ran away with the kid that they kidnapped,
Yeah.
and I guessed that they were related because she kept saying she grew up around the area and like knew people who were with it or whatever. So I thought she was going to be one of
I
the bad
didn't.
guys, and then she was gone
did
for so long, and they were having all those like issues. Like he got into trouble, Fitz got into trouble, and I was like, Laurel's going to show up and save the day, and she did. What I didn't expect was that she was going to bring the Fool with her. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
That was fun.
I was clueless about that lady. Like her whole backstory thing, I was just like, why is she telling us all of this?
I thought she was like
wasn't
in on it from the
thinking
beginning. Yeah.
that she would be related to the old blood but not have the wit. Never
Yeah.
crossed my mind. So, and then when she disappeared, I was just like, well, yeah, I wasn't thinking about her. So she showed up. Oh,
she's out of the picture now.
I forgot you exist.
That's funny. Oh man.
Man, I don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen in the next books. Obviously, I haven't read them, but I feel like there should, like, okay, sure, Fitz can teach Dutiful about the wit and, well, definitely the skill, but I feel like it'd be better if he was fostered with someone who had, like, a family that had the wit, but we can't trust anybody to keep the secret, so, like, he can't.
No.
But that's what I would want for him, is for him to go and learn from other people who have it and like grew up with it, not from Fitz, but like they can't do that without revealing the secret. It's such a hard place to be in. But that's what makes a good story, I guess.
Yeah.
Freaking work something out. Like they want her to like be more overt in supporting them and you know, not allowing the regular people to, you know, kill them for any little old thing. But maybe she can work something out in that way. I don't know. I'm not a politician.
So was anybody sad when the cat died? Because I cried. The sacrifice.
Yeah.
Especially animal companion sacrifice always gets me. And I was so nervous going into that scene because the chapter before that, Fitz he has his knife to Dutiful's neck and it's like, he says like, I'm sorry. And basically telling Dutiful he's about to kill him. He's like, I'll make it quick or something like that. And Dutiful's like, wait, I think I still have a connection or something. He like holds him off. But I was like, oh my God, Fitz is going to have to kill his son who doesn't even know he's his son. Like, this is so terrible. Like, I really thought that's where we were going. I knew that Fitz wasn't going to have to kill himself because there's more books, but I thought for sure, like, not for sure, but I thought there was a decent chance he was going to have to kill Dutiful, and I was so upset about it. And then the cat to be like, no, kill me. It just broke my heart. I cried.
I'm glad she finally spoke up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad that, I mean, I think part of it, okay, what I was going to say is I'm glad that Dutiful doesn't still blame Fitz for what he did. You know, he knows that the cat said to do it, but I think also the fact that Night Eyes died and Fitz is dealing with a similar loss probably helps Dutiful. This is in my head. Probably helps Dutiful to not hold it against him.
It's in my head too.
Yeah.
I like those scenes directly afterwards when they were going back to Buckkeep and like the two of them were being all sad and on their horses or whatever. But like that shared grief for roughly the same reasons, that was nice. They have that.
But I felt bad for Fitz. Like, Dutiful gets given like a sleeping draft or something so he can like sleep it off, and Fitz just has to deal with his emotions because he's an adult.
I mean,
He's a grown man.
it still hurts.
I feel like they probably would. This is a thing that they do for all of their people, and I understand that Fitz is not one of their people and is an adult, but
that's the thing. He's never been one of
enough.
anybody's people. He's always been alone. He's always different.
He's always an outcast in any community that he's part of.
Yeah, that sucks.
Poor Fitz. I also got a little teary-eyed at the end when Shade and Fitz are talking, and basically Fitz says that he's loyal to the Farseer line and loyal to Dutiful or whatever, and Shade like breaks down and is like, I'm so glad that you're like devoted to him because now he has someone to take care of him after I die. And I'm like, Shade, don't die. It was sad.
Well, I mean, Shade was the brother of like
True.
2 kings ago. I mean, so like he's
2 kings ago.
True.
But I love that scene because Fitz, he was so devoted to Chade and would do anything that Chade tells him, and like this scene like signifies him like coming into his own, and like Fitz actually like growing up by separating himself from Chade.
Yeah.
Yeah, like now he's an adult and he wears like nicer clothing thanks to the Fool and all of this stuff. It's just so weird seeing Fitz in this different, like I said, perspective all around. And he's a dad
that nobody knows is a dad.
Yeah.
And he can't tell anybody.
Fatherly thoughts, worried about his kids.
I know.
Whether he's not.
There's that one quote.
Wanted.
I don't know if it was from Assassin's Quest or if it was from this book, where he was mentioning how he can't acknowledge his kids and in like to protect them, and in that he is truly his father's son, and that made me so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like now he also understands like his father's decision too.
Yeah.
I don't, but
again, the parallels.
Yeah. There's a lot of parallels. I am hoping in the next book we see more of Ketrican.
I think we will. I mean, to me, the way it ended, it seems like at least the next book, if not the next 2, are going to be mostly at Buckkeep and be Fitz like training Dutiful, and so it seems like it might be a Buckkeep book. I obviously could be totally wrong, but I'm looking forward to a Buckkeep book.
I figure, and the title is Golden Fool, so I feel like we're gonna, I don't know, something significant's gonna happen with the Fool because he's
the
now
whole
golden.
Trilogy is the Tawny Man.
I mean,
it's all about him.
That's true.
That's true.
Which I'm okay with.
I was crying when Night Eyes died, and my husband was like, did one of the main characters die? Or did the main character die? And I was like, one of them!
Did the main character die? Who's narrating then?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's funny because like I think I'm the odd one out on this for most people, but like I got much more emotional in the Live Ship Traders series than I have in any of the Fitz books. Like I don't I like them, but I'm just not as emotionally invested in these as I was in I don't know. It's like whereas there were characters in Live Ship Traders that like I care so much about, like, and I like Fitz as a character. Like, I think he's a great character, and like I think they're great books, but they don't hit me in the same way, which I don't think is typical. I feel like most people are
I feel like I'm the opposite. Yeah,
I think most people
there are things that have made me cry from the Live Ship Traders, but I didn't cry at the end of Ship of Destiny. There wasn't really anything that sad. I don't know. I didn't cry at the end of Ship of Destiny. I was kind of surprised because I almost always cry at the end of a Hobb book, and I was like, oh, this feels kind of weird, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with no tears.
Okay. I get more angry on behalf of or at the characters in the Live Ship Traders series. And I was like, this is not, like I said, the constantly changing perspective, even though we might be in the midst of a very important and gripping scene, and it's like, no, we gotta go see what the brother is doing. And I'm just like, do we really right now? Like we're always with him. And while I would like perspectives from we're always with Fitz. I would like perspectives from the Fool, at least, and maybe when he was alive, Night Eyes. I'm okay. The more I'm with the character, the more I empathize. And so, yeah, I bawled my eyes out with every Fitz book because that's what you do. And I was just pissed through parts of the Live Ship Traders that I read.
Yeah, I remember
I do
just feeling
the
very
character.
angry in Live Ship.
I was
I
angry
don't remember
many times.
anything else. Just the anger.
There was a lot of good like world building reveals and interesting stuff.
Yeah.
One thing world building, I guess, sort of reveal in this book that I was confused about. So the dragons that they brought to life at the end of Assassin's Quest were still not real. Like I thought they brought them to life and they were real dragons, but in this book we find out they just turned back into stone. I was like, what the heck? Like I thought that they would be around.
They're not actual dragons. Well, we kind of learned that. I thought in Live Ship Traders they weren't the real dragons because the real dragons have this whole life cycle. Like this is
I guess that's true. But I thought they were like dragons that had died and they brought it. I don't know.
I just
when we read in this book
magical
that they
carvings.
I think I think they're like the carvings that people with like the skill coteries and also
would make at the end of their life.
Elderlings would put their lives into. And then so like when they needed them, they called them for help. And that's what they meant by like asking the elderlings for assistance. They're not just dragons.
Why not? I mean, why not?
I know, but it was like mostly dragons, and I'm like,
because they can fly.
Yeah, but I definitely thought they brought to life real dragons, and then in this book, I find out they just went back to being stone, and I was like, what the heck? So I was annoyed.
Ran out of energy.
Yeah,
like my brain just said, "Oh, they just went back to sleep. Their job was done." Okay.
Yep. Until the next time they need them again.
Yeah, and then there's like in one of the scenes they're talking about how they are hearing rumors that Bingtown has like dragons, and I'm like, yep, sure do. They're not rumors.
Well, I thought it was one other thing too. We had a moment of Fitz saying that he had gone to Bingtown, and I made me wonder if maybe if you go back and read, if there's a cameo of him in the background. Like now, I'm curious. You know,
I was wondering that as well. I also was like, when he was in Bingtown, how did like the Fool / Amber not know that he was there? Like, how did he not see him?
Well, some of the time they were traveling.
They were traveling. That's true.
You know, they were on the ships a lot and stuff. So.
Oh, the other reveal related to Amber that I enjoyed was finding out what happened between her and Lavoy when Lavoy like attacked. Well, we thought he attacked her, and Althea was like, "Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" And Amber was like, no, he didn't hurt me, but never really explained what happened. We found out that Fitz like skill dreamed and like pushed him away from her with the skill and like saved Amber. And like, so like that scene in Live Ship was very confusing. Just like they kept bringing it up and I was like, what is it? Like, what are we talking about? And now we know what it was. And it was really cool.
That was interesting.
I love all the interconnections of everything. Like that makes me happy.
Yeah. I saw a cute comic that's like Fitz traveling to Bingtown and then people seeing him and being like, oh my god, what Paragon is walking? And then he sees Paragon and Paragon's like, what? He has my face.
Paragon has his face. Oh my gosh. I hope there is a universe where Fitz and Paragon meet. That'd be amazing.
Fan fiction.
That's the only universe.
I also liked this whole new political thing with the Red Ship Traders. What not Red Ship.
Red Raiders.
Red Raiders. There we go. I'm like,
yeah, that was interesting. What's gonna happen? There's got to be more to this other prophet. Like she's gonna cause more trouble.
Oh yeah,
I'm
sure.
More. Yeah.
How old is Dutiful again?
14.
14.
Which
Okay.
I think the timelines are like a little bit off because in the end of Assassin's Quest, I feel like Fitz was probably like 17 or 18.
Mm-hmm.
That's how old he was. So technically now it's like 15 years later. He should be like 32 or 33, but then he says he's 35. And I'm like, the math is not quite adding
Not
up.
mathing.
Yeah.
But did he know?
Well, don't forget, it takes 9 months to grow a baby.
Well, that's why he's 14 and not 15.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the math is not mathing.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just take it.
Yeah.
I thought by the end of it he was a little older though. But
I don't pay attention to those things.
It's a whole. It's like in SRC it's always like it's summer again. Oh, it's winter again. Oh,
Yeah.
it's summer and the Raiders are back. I don't know. I lost track.
Yeah, because I remember that he was like 21 at the end of it or something, but I could be wrong. That's like what I thought.
I mean, that would put the timelines more matching.
Matching.
Yeah.
Then Bethany's probably right.
Yeah.
Okay, then I have to like when I think back to Farseer, I have to like reframe everything because when I read it, I was still imagining Fitz as like a 17-year-old traveling to
no. Oh, yeah, no. He was a little older by then, and also fathering a baby like that. That's why I was okay with it, just because kind of okay with it because he was like 21 or something. He wasn't like a child.
18-year-olds can father babies.
I mean, they can, but like I feel like
especially when they're possessed by their uncle, you know.
Yeah,
wow.
right, you know,
that weird sex scene.
Moving right on.
I remember reading that and being like, "This is the weirdest thing that I've read in so long."
Yeah. It is still the weirdest thing I've ever read.
But is it weirder than the scene in Royal Assassin with Molly? And
it is weirder than that. It's definitely weirder than that.
Yeah, it is weirder than that.
I still find the Night Eyes one to be weird, much weirder.
I mean, it's weird too, but like also, I guess that is what would happen. Mind connected with somebody. You don't know how to shut it down.
Weird, and then there's creepy, and then there's that whole thing with Verity and Fitz.
Yeah.
That
stuff reminds me of Wheel of Time as well. There's also something else that reminded me of Wheel of Time, like when Fitz talks about how he feels like he's lost his senses and like the world isn't as vibrant as it used to be because he doesn't have the senses of Night Eyes. It reminds me of like a magic thing in Wheel of Time as well.
So I wonder how it's going to work. How could he possibly teach Dutiful when neither of them have?
They will. They'll get new ones.
Yeah.
At least Dutiful will get a new one.
Yeah.
I anticipate Fitz losing his patience a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of yelling.
Patient. Yeah, I'm curious what he's going to learn from these scrolls. I thought it was really interesting. One of the little intros to a chapter was talking about how like the better way to teach the skill is to get to know the person really well before, like for a whole year before you even start training them. But that like in times of need, you can be more brutal or harsh the way that Galen was. And it said specifically, like sometimes people use this strategy when you need to force a coterie to form or whatever. So that was like really eye-opening that like the way that Galen did it is in the scrolls as a way to do it, but it's not the preferred method.
Yeah.
But he saw it and he's like, yep, that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, of course.
Freaking Galen.
He was the worst.
I like how there's just like a bunch of scrolls now. Where were these?
Right? Where were these back then?
Yeah. 15 years ago. Yep.
I also thought it was funny when so Dutiful was asking Fitz if he's the skill master, or like if he's the only one left who knows how to use the skill, and Fitz says yes, and he in his head he's like, I killed everybody else, but I'm not gonna tell you that. That made me laugh.
But Fitz becoming skill master, I don't know, it just if he actually does become skill master, it just fills me with so much joy to see that, because it's like the person that he hated was like the skill master, and then now it's like him going into that position to like kind of fix everything that went wrong. I don't know. I would like to see
parallels, Christy.
Exactly, all the parallels. She does them so well.
Many. She does. She does.
Yeah.
I wonder if like she actually planned like all of these things in advance.
Oh, I'm sure. I feel like she must have planned a lot of it.
One thing that she didn't plan for, and I read it in interviews, and also I asked, like, I met Robin Hobb in person before, by the way.
Oh, congrats.
I actually had dinner with her.
What?
Oh, I think I knew that. Yeah.
I'll tell the story after. But basically, she didn't plan for the Fool to be a thing at all. Like, the Fool was only supposed to show up in one scene in the first book to say like his witty little line and disappear. But then he kept coming back into the story. And then she's like, it's funny because it still ended up like where she had originally planned it to go. Even though now like the story is so entwined with the Fool.
So in it, yeah. Interesting.
That is really interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
Wow.
Well, any sort of final thoughts?
Not a final thought,
about...
but I did have wonder what you guys thought about that whole noble family that uses the hunting caps. Their whole thing was kind of weird too.
Yes.
Like, they turned out not to be bad guys, but it was weird. And
I totally thought they were in on it, so I had a hard time believing that they weren't. But they said that they weren't. So the book said.
Do we believe them though? I don't know if I believe them. Yeah. I don't think I believe them.
Really?
Then, the Fool and how he got them away from them, and I'm just like, oh my god, I was not expecting that. And how is this going to come back?
Oh yeah, that scene.
Oh, I forgot about that. When he made a fool of himself because he got. I wonder how they're going to explain that away.
By
the time we got to the end of the book and they're heading back to Buckkeep and they start talking about the betrothal ceremony, I had totally forgotten there was a betrothal ceremony to get back.
Oh yeah, that's the whole reason.
That's the whole point.
I know.
They're
like talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's happening.
I'm curious to see what the girl is like because I feel like we're going to meet her in the next book.
They mentioned about because she's like 11 or something, and I think it was Shade said something about like I got the impression she's like mature for her age, or she's a special person. So I'm interested to learn more about her.
Yeah.
And there was like a little snippet at the end of my copy for the next book, like I guess an intro or whatever, and that was interesting.
I didn't read it.
Beautiful being like, what am I supposed to do with like an 11-year-old? This is
your 3-year age gap. Come on,
you're 14, dude.
Give it.
But when you're 14, 11 seems like a much bigger difference. So
I wonder if she's going to be staying there or if they're going to be separated. I feel like she's going to go back home for a little while, but I don't know.
I know what happens.
Yeah, so you can't say.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested in the politics of the whole thing because, you guys were invading us and then infecting our people, and now we're going to be married and friends.
Yeah.
One thing I loved about like this whole world and like the themes that she tackles is like how they didn't just raid them just for fun. They were getting their own revenge from when the 6 duchies like did stuff to them, and then it's all just like, again, the wheel of time. It's an endless cycle.
What has happened comes again.
Well, I haven't read the Wheel of Time, but I have read oh my goodness, what is his name with the Kickstarter and the
Sanderson.
I don't know, it went out of my head. It's after 10 p.m. so
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, what's the big series that he has? The
Stormlight.
Stormlight. Thank you. And there's certain things that kind of remind me of Stormlight. The biggest thing is like Fitz and Hoyd.
You mean the Fool?
The Fool and Hoyd. Again, thank you. Like, I need people to be my brain at this time of night. Like Hoyd and the Fool remind me of each other, and
I could see that definitely. They're definitely like a similar
pushing and
archetype.
pulling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I read the first of the secret projects, or I'm still halfway through it. I started it in April. And
when it came out.
Okay.
no comment. But yeah, Hoyd in that definitely reminds me of the Fool more so.
I can see that.
Lost a little bit of his mind there.
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
Yeah, the whole like wars because you were mean to us in the last war thing. Also, Stormlight vibes to me, or I guess Stormlight is giving me Realm of the Elderling vibes.
Yeah.
Since this
I
came
do
out.
love that trope.
Came first. Yeah, me too.
It's like there's no side that is like completely good or completely bad.
Ooh, I did not know that. Good job.
Is that real, or is that like just a...
Has that been confirmed? I mean, I'm not surprised.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but that
the timing. I mean, he would have grown up reading that, I would think, or at least, close to it.
I could see that for sure.
We shall see.
Mm-hmm.
So, real quick story about my dinner with Robin Hobb.
Okay.
So, it was like years. Oh my god, it was almost like 8 years ago or something. She came to like a small event at my town, and then there were like probably like 10 people at this event. So then afterwards, the organizers were like, by the way, we're all going to go to dinner afterwards. Like anyone who's like, who wants to come along, you're free to come along. So I'm like, okay, like this is one of my favorite authors. So we went to dinner together. And then it was like at this really small, intimate, like Chinese restaurant. And you know, like Robin Hobb, she comes from like, she lives in Washington, I think. So I imagine like she doesn't get a lot of exposure to different kinds of food. So she was very unfamiliar with like a lot of the dishes that were brought, but she was so nice and like tried everything. Yeah, it was a fun event.
I can't believe only 10 people showed up to a Hobb event. But I mean, I guess it was 8 years ago, but still.
Yeah, I think this was before
they got invited. It was only 10 of them.
Yeah.
But
I think this was before like I don't know. She was obviously like already popular, but I feel like just from what I see on BookTube and the in the internet,
she's kind of had a resurgence.
Yeah. Which is crazy because she's been around for so long. Like she's in my head, like time period with Robert Jordan. You know, like she's of that cohort of fantasy writers in my mind. And she just wasn't nearly as popular, but she has a lot of books. Her backlist is huge.
Yeah. Okay, so Sanderson said in an interview he took inspiration from Fool. So.
Does not surprise me.
Yeah. So
about the Fool and his backstory, like
Hoyd has white hair too.
Oh, he does. Interesting.
Comparing with Hoyd, so now like Jade, I think mentioned like the parallel universes thing when he was talking about he's somewhere to the south, and like when I was reading about that section, I wasn't thinking parallel universes. I was like, what if it's not on this planet? Because again, Hoyd, and all of that stuff going on, but yeah, I don't know.
This makes me think even more so that maybe my multiverse theory is right. I don't know.
I mean, it fits with the title of the series, like Realm of the Elderlings. I hadn't really thought about there being like multiple realms and only one of them is of the Elderlings. Like that's really interesting. I always thought of it more of like a time travel, like the Elderlings were in the past. And I think they're going to come back now that dragons are coming back because like I said, I don't really know this, but
but where are they coming back from?
I think Elderlings are
you
created.
Thought it was like time travel.
I thought like whenever we had scenes with Elderlings that was seen back in history and kind of like time travel-y. And I think that Elderlings are created by people who spend time with and become bonded in some way with dragons. I think that creates Elderlings. That's the impression that I've gotten so far from Ship of Destiny, like by the end of Ship of Destiny. I don't know if I'm right about that, but that's what I got.
Yeah, that's what I am confused about. Like, was that established firmly in Ship of Destiny, or is it
No.
still just a
I don't think it was
speculation?
established, but that's my impression based on the things that happened to the people and like how they were talking about elderlings in that last book.
Yeah.
Well,
But I'm
or
also
that like
confused
that's
about-
how the elderlings originated, but that maybe some of the original elderlings, my theory is, moved to a different sort of like realm or world.
Why did they leave? What happened?
So that's the question.
Do we
We'll
really
find
need
out.
that? Do they fit in the current world? But also, like, I find it weird that no one really talks about the rest of the planet that they're on. Like, it's just these relatively three countries, if you will. And then we get this story from the Fool about how he's from someplace
In the south.
way south. And it's just like, huh, is that double speak, or is there literally another? I mean, you know, there could be other land masses on their planet, and they just have no clue.
I mean, when you have to travel by horse.
Exactly. But they have
Takes a minute.
ships, and maybe the red ship people have gone further than the six duchies.
Yeah,
Possible.
maybe.
And then I feel like the snakes in the live ship traders were coming from a lot further, like those scenes in the early books where they were like waking up and then the waters are getting colder and all of that stuff.
Right, like that they do a lot more traveling.
How where he was at, it was warmer than it is in the six duchies, I think. I'm remembering that correctly. So
I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I gotta reread Live Ship.
Yeah.
I don't got time. I don't have time.
It's
and then
definitely
where do the
connected.
whites tie in? What is a white? Because he's just partially a white.
I mean,
it's white with a capital W, so it's like a proper noun. So what does that mean? It seems like it's kind of like a species.
I mean, so like a white. Okay, well, so like the definitions of it it can either mean like a spirit, ghost, or supernatural being, or a person of a specified kind, especially when regarded as unfortunate. But typically literary spirit, ghost, or supernatural being.
Yeah.
Is usually
okay. I mean, he is supernatural, so
so that that he was partly descended from. But also, let's say the elderlings are what I think they are, or can do what I think they can do. Maybe his people thought an elderling was a white because it appeared as like a spirit because it could move between universes, and maybe he's descended from an elderling.
So in that quote that I looked at, when I said white, it's the color white. It's spelled the color white with a capital W. Not a white like that.
Oh,
you were looking up the WIGHT.
Yeah, GHT. Because I've been listening to them mostly on audio, so I just assumed
no, he says white like the color, and it's capitalized, so it's like a proper noun of some sort of special being.
Authors do take that license and like spell things how they want, and you know.
Yeah, but I don't think this is that kind of white. This is something different.
Okay.
So
that's interesting. So who knows? Okay.
That's so funny that you jumped to that word. That's
yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. It's a fantasy book.
Yeah. I mean, that was my assumption because I had just been listening to it on audio, so I just assumed it was like, you know.
No, it's spelled white like the color, but capitalized.
Weird.
So special.
Huh. That is so interesting. Okay. Well,
one last thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just like a quick comment. It's like everyone talks about how this series is like so heartbreaking. I'm like myself included. It's like so heartbreaking. Hobb puts Fitz through so much torture. But then I feel like we skip over some of the parts that are like actually so funny. Like Fitz's internal monologue sometimes is so sassy, and I love it.
Only he would do things out loud.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
but
I feel
also
like when I
like
pitched this series, I'm like, I have to be like, there's funny parts too.
Yeah.
No, I
The
think
chapter
it's
after
really true.
Night Eyes died had me laughing 3 different times. Like I was laughing out loud. It was so funny. Which
I
is
just feel
exactly
like
what I
they
needed
feel
after
very
he died.
real.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
that's like in life, it's like you deal with grief and you deal with like trauma, and like this is like that's. I mean, we're in a fantasy world, but like she kind of writes what things are like.
Yeah. And life is quite ridiculous most of the time, and you have to laugh.
I have one more thought before you
humor
go.
is subjective also. It's hard to like be like, I found this funny, you should find it funny too.
That's true.
One more thought before we go. This is another live ship spoiler because I just read it. Okay, so at the end of Ship of Destiny, Amber finally finds the 9-fingered priest that she's been looking for, and then she leaves him and comes to Fitz. Like, what? You were looking for Winthrop? Like, what? Where is he now? What happened to that?
Oh, she just
Well,
leaves you?
She was looking for Winthrop, and she was like, "I finally found him." Like that's where her like path was leading her, her whatever.
Well,
and then
I mean, we'll probably find out at some point.
Yeah,
we'll
I'm sure it's going to come up
point.
again. But I definitely was thinking about that in this book because I was like, the whole Life Ship Trader series, she was looking for Winthrop. She finds him, or he finds him, and then now we're back with Fitz. Like, what happened to Winthrop?
Well, Live Ship Traders was a few years.
Was
it? Yeah, it wasn't that long. And it's been 15 years, you know? So like,
when does Rainwild Chronicles happen? I don't know. I can look up my own timelines. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, but I do know Rainwild follows, what's her name? The little girl.
Malta.
Okay. I know Malta
really?
is a character. Yeah.
Thank God she grew on me.
What?
Thank God she grew on me.
Yeah. She grows on you. You gotta push through.
Grow on you, yeah. But I know someone said that Malta is a character in the Rainwild Chronicles when she's a little older. So.
Okay, so I need to know why Amber was looking for Winthrop. Like, is that going to be explained?
Maybe. It looks like we'll learn more about Amber and Golden Fool. So
okay, all righty.
Speaking of which, I would like her to meet Fitz.
You would like Winthrop to meet Fitz? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I just want them all to get to, like.
I know.
Call it a family reunion. They're not. Yeah, but like crossover.
Please. Yeah.
But I want everyone to be nice to Fitz. I feel like everyone is always so rude to Fitz.
You know what? I just had another thought. Like, how come nobody in Bingtown, like nobody in the Live Ship Traders had the 2 kinds of magics that we've been talking about? Like, does that exist in Bingtown?
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Because in the history that Fitz was writing before, he mentioned how the skill comes about when you have like 6 duchies folk and out islander folk when they
have kids
come together. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, maybe that's one reason why Dutiful is being betrothed to the Out Islanders, because that'll help bring the skill back. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe
I'm reaching. I don't know.
No, maybe. That's interesting. Skill is arrived through the Farseer line,
but only the Farseers. Interesting.
Well, because there are other people who can do it, but like maybe they're also distantly related. Oh, it's carried. Skill is carried through the Farseer line. Yeah.
So they mentioned it in this book how skill, like with the coteries, they find other people, but their skill is not as strong for some reason.
Right. Yeah.
As the Farseers.
Yeah.
I wonder if the fact that Dutiful has the wit is. Oh, sorry. Were you not done with what you were saying? I didn't mean to interrupt you. No.
No, I just said, and then there's the wit, though. So why doesn't Bigtown have anybody with the wit?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that maybe what happens, like with the dragons and people who can talk, maybe that's some sort of wit magic. I don't know.
Well, we do know that they're affected by like the water and stuff. So like it's also possible that there could be something like an environmental factor in Bingtown. I don't know. Also, it just occurred to me, this is probably why they're called the Farseers, because they can see far with the skill.
Oh, I had already caught that one a long time ago. So
He also mentioned something like that in one of the like the blurbs in the trilogy. I don't remember what exactly, but it was like, oh, it's interesting why they're called the Farseer.
mm-hmm.
It's almost like he's mentioned something about them like in the future, and then it's like they somehow reach back in time to get this name. I don't know. It was very confusing.
Oh, the wit's from
I have to
Okay, that's
reread.
really interesting, Jennifer Robin, because what I was about to say earlier was that I wonder if the fact that Dutiful has the wit might clue somebody like Shade into the fact that maybe Fitz is the father. Like, where did he get the wit from? But if it comes from the mountain people, then they can explain it away that way too.
Because Ketrican has like a hint of the wit.
Oh, that's true.
Oh,
I forgot about that.
She could almost communicate with Night Eyes. I love their bond too.
Yeah.
Aww. And she's gonna find out that Night Eyes died.
Oh my goodness.
There is no
time travel.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
I mean, why not?
Time travel is hard to do.
Yeah, and do it well. Yeah.
It can get sticky.
Yes.
Wheel of Time.
Who needs time travel when things just happen over and over again? Right? Wheel of Time jokes. My bad.
So
That's actually really sad.
It is. So I think tentatively we're thinking first Friday of November for the next book. So for anybody reading along with us, we will be back to discuss The Golden Fool and then finish it up in early December. And then next year, I'm probably going to... Is Rainwild Chronicles next?
Yes.
Okay.
Sweet.
So I'm probably going to do that sometime next year.
I will join in. I'm excited about... I want to learn more about the Rainwilds. Like, that was my favorite part of the life ship stuff, so...
Awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
What
Okay,
technically there
no
is
more
time
amazing.
travel. Okay. All right. No spoilers. No spoilers for later books.
I'm going to bleach my eyes. I'm kidding.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and hope you have a great night. Join us next month to discuss the next book.
Month.
Yeah, this is
Bye,
so
guys.
fun. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.